Okay, so what do I have here with me today? It's the Shure SRH940, which is a headphone actually intended for mastering, mixing and DJ use. But even nicer for me to see is that it's also for the music listener who's looking to get something very specific out of it. What that is, I'm gonna tell you later on. What I'm gonna tell you right now is the price, where I'm just not quite sure about, because in Germany they are priced at 200 euros. But in the US, for example, where I'm just not quite sure about where to check, at Amazon.com, for example, they are $300. Maybe at Best Buy they are cheaper, so that's something maybe you should check out. But what we are gonna take a look at now is the box that they come with. As you can see here, definitely a nice sturdy box, but it's also quite a big box because the headphones are a little bit on the bigger side as well, but we are gonna cover these a little bit later. Here we get to the coiled cable that I didn't even touch because I don't like coiled ones. Here you could store the straight cable, which is about 2 meters long. And underneath this here, you can see a spare pair of ear cups. You also get, of course, a 1/4-inch adapter, which you can see here already at this cable. The cable, I would say, is okay. It's not the most flexible one. It's nicely rubberized and it's thick enough, so I don't think this is an issue. As you can already see here, we have a twist and lock mechanism, so the cable is replaceable, shouldn't be a bigger issue, and this is safe and secure. I definitely like that approach. So let's just take a look at the headphones themselves now. And you can see definitely they are quite massive, so a little bit bulky, and they feel quite plasticky. Not really in a bad way, but this is also the main reason why I didn't even take a big look at them on CanJam where I was, because the design didn't really attract me, which was actually a fault of mine, because the outer shell, yeah, definitely is a little bit misleading because they have a lot to offer, which they just don't look quite. What I like is that we have these steps here and you can see them actually numbered, so you know which size you have. Now the padding here is not super thick, but it's nice and soft and it's totally doing the job fine. And I would say in terms of quality, it looks fine, because as you can see, it doesn't even crack a lot, which is absolutely good. Of course, they are foldable to save some space, even though this way they don't fit in the box. Otherwise, the rotation here and all, you get definitely enough space to put them on. The only thing is weird is how they fold up, because I would have expected them to fold up like this, and this way they are very comfortable around my neck, especially for DJs and such. But the problem is that you don't have them on like this, because the right way is this, and in that case they would fold like this would work. This seems a little bit odd. So yeah, you're gonna have to figure that out on your own. Now the next thing, the ear cups. The size inside the ear cup is definitely good enough. The only thing that you maybe already see is that it's quite shallow. And my ears touch all the time on this, but it's so soft that it's maybe not even a problem for most people. And what it actually feels like is those things that you put on your kids in the winter so they have warm ears, because that's what it feels like. I don't think your ears will actually get warm because you have this super nice velour and it feels high quality and it should leave some space. But what you just don't get is any air between the driver or the padding and the ears, because it kind of touches all the time. But this already leads me to the comfort, because they are super crazily comfortable because of this touching. If you don't like that so much, which is something that I usually don't do, but after a longer period of time it got a little bit weird because I just don't like anything touching my ear. But they don't definitely feel like on ears, because you have the ear pad definitely around your ear. Now the pressure, the clamping force, I would say, is pretty much perfect, because you get enough so it never feels too hard, because usually with velour pads and too much pressure it feels a little bit hard. Not the case here, but it's also stiff enough so they have a very secure fit. They sit right, in my opinion. They look, though, like I said, quite massive. So if that's an issue for you, okay. And that's, like I said, the issue why I didn't actually ignore them a little bit more on CanJam. But if you take a look at the qualities on the sound, you definitely will regret it if you haven't taken a look at them. Because let's get to the isolation actually first. It is actually quite good for velour pads. Usually velour pads leave still a lot of sound outside and inside, but actually not, because I hear myself very muffled, because the seal around is still very good and they are yet comfortable, so they don't really heat up or anything like that. So hour-long sessions, no problem at all, if you have no problem with the touching. Now the leakage, of course, is obviously there, and in a while I will also actually include a leakage test in my reviews, but not today. Now soundstage, I have to say the soundstage is bigger than average. For a closed one, definitely very nice, because they did find the nice balance, so not to make it artificially wide, because you still have very good imaging, which would make them very suited also for gaming, because you can hear footsteps very precisely, but also locate them very well, because due to the nice soundstage, which has good imaging, so really nice. Now, how easy are they to drive? I would actually say easier than I expected to, because with a decent sound card it should be good enough. What I've noticed though, especially coming from just my Focusrite 6i6, which they sounded a tad little, say little and limited, more kind of softened in the highs. With my Shit Magni 2, the highs brightened up a little bit more. They got even more clear, a little bit more harsh though, which I like, but that's already the thing when it comes to the sound that I want to get into. Because no, I haven't run out of weird nicknames yet, and for these ones I have actually 3 ones. My official nickname would be the Defibrillator, because what they can do is breathe new life into especially older music that sounds usually dull. Which brings me to my second name, the Anti-Dull, or His Highness. Highness, because the highs in my opinion are definitely the highlight here. But before I'm gonna go into that, let's talk about the bass. Bass is, I would say, maybe the least impressive part of that, because, okay, that's a little bit exaggerating, but it feels like you have just kind of 3 levels of bass. You have the deeper bass, you have the mid bass, and you have the upper bass, and not much between. So I would have wished for a little more depth in the bass, a little bit more layered ones. Of course, when I say 3, that's not really the case, but I didn't have quite, for example, like on the Beyerdynamic 1990 Pro, all the specific kinds of space, and the extension towards the lower end isn't all that deep. So I would say, since it is a very accurate and very neutral headphone, you just won't get overly exaggerated bass. Absolutely, actually not exaggerated at all. Everything is very neutral, very accurate, which is great, since you are mostly, at least I guess, will be using them for mastering and mixing. And this they will do absolutely fine. Even though maybe you won't get all the layers of the bass, you will get it very uncolored, which is very nice to see. And the bass is a little bit on the tighter, or a little bit on the drier side, but it's definitely not boomy or anything. It's detailed enough, I would say, but it is a very kind of subtle, kind of in the background bass. It does what it has to do, and that's actually really good. But it never tries to be in the foreground, which the mids also don't really do, because the mids absolutely nice. Vocals, nice separation from the instruments, and on one line you get a really good glimpse of the mids, so you can really focus on them if you want to, but just enjoy the instruments as well. What is though absolutely the highlight for me is, as I said, the highs. Because we definitely have elevated highs up to a point where it could, for a lot of people, already be a little bit too much. They could be a little bit too harsh. But I've already said it in the past that I prefer a headphone to go a little bit over this threshold where I think it's getting a little bit ear piercing or too high, instead of being too low, which just makes it feel dull. And that's the main reason why I enjoyed these the most, with, I would say, less quality, more dull mixed music that I know from the past. Because some older music that I have usually doesn't have the sparkle in the highs. And with these ones, like I said, you kind of breathe new life into music that is usually dull. So you get then just more clarity in the highs. It feels more open, and with already a little bit bigger than average soundstage, you get this really nice, pleasant music listening experience. And this is why I like them so much, not being a DJ or a mixer or someone who masters music, because you can actually enjoy music a lot on these. And this is not just for this. This is an all-purpose weapon, because you can listen to pretty much everything. Okay, maybe for the things like dubstep and all these, where you have a lot of different variations of bass, and where it needs to extend very much, and where it needs the punch, not quite so suited. It still represents it very accurate, and if you want that, and if you enjoy this music, you will. But especially for classic music, rock also works super nice, especially the one that is a little bit more grainy, usually a little bit more dark, because these are neither warm, these are neither dark, these are not cold, these are very, very balanced. So actually this is one of the few headphones where I can say they are dark or they are bright. They are not cold, they are not warm, they are exactly in the middle, with highs making it very kind of open, airy, which is something that I usually don't get on these closed ones. And therefore you get this nice experience. Now, the highs a little bit too harsh? Is it an issue for some people? It could be a little bit fatiguing for some people, especially since I know a lot of people like this more colored sound that is a little bit on the restrained side. And especially yesterday when I did my Bluetooth headphone check where I had like 8 headphones and tried them back and forth. And today, going back to these ones again before the review, I just noticed what those are all lacking. It's kind of life. Because yeah, but I can't, of course, compare these with $300 Bluetooth headphones. These are 200 or 300 euro or dollar headphones that sound really good. So I really enjoyed music. Now, like I said, not maybe for someone who's looking for, it's definitely not a fun sounded headphone. But you can have sound, or I mean, you can have fun with them, but maybe satisfaction is the right word, because you get all the details, you get the clarity, you get this soothing sound, this very, very appreciative sound. So you really know what you get with your music with these here, because you get what the mixer or the masterer, which they are made for, intended them to make sound music, and really good. So let's just get to the conclusion. Priced at $300. Could I recommend them? Yes, absolutely still. For $200, of course, even obviously more so. But it doesn't really change the fact of my conclusion. Because even for $300, if you're looking for that, if you're looking for something very comfortable, because if you don't have a problem with the touching, these are so soft, so nice. The pressure is great. You can fold them up and wherever you want to store them, and all that is great. Cable also didn't have an issue with this kind of picking into my shoulder or anything like that. So I personally didn't like them for hours and hours and hours. So like after 3 or 4 hours, then I just don't like touching my ears so much. But that's the only thing. The sound though, especially if you have older music and you want to kind of enjoy it once again, this is perfect. Doesn't mean though that music that is mixed well sounds bad, because it still does shine, and it makes it shine and sparkle even more so in some way. Like I said, only the highs for some people could be too much if you don't like them. I personally love high highs, piercing highs almost, and these are just a tad over this threshold sometimes, but usually they are right around the place where I want them to be. And yeah, so I guess I could maybe now take a little bit of a moment to check the competitors. And here is, for example, maybe the Sennheiser HC600 to be called out, which I think just sounds more dull actually, because you have great vocals. Yes, you have pretty much the best vocals on Sennheiser HC600s, but you don't have this liveliness in the music. Of course, the bass is also a little bit more detailed, but a little bit less focused. These have a little bit almost kind of emphasized bass, but the bass on the 600 for some people could sound a little bit too thin, but it really depends. It is a more high quality bass on the HD600, but this is a little bit of a more tight, more fitting, a little bit closer bass. The highs though, I have to say I like a lot more on these, so especially the vocals that usually need highs a lot to shine, this is where it just is better. I won't really go any further, because the Sennheiser of course are obviously open back and these are closed back, and even though the Sennheiser are open ones with quite a small sound station, these with a little bit of a bigger one, so which makes it still comparable, but it's just not quite the same. Otherwise, I don't really have anything I could properly compare them with, because they just do something that most don't do. Super accurate, not that much details in the, or let's say depth in the bass, but everything else super nicely balanced out. That's the only thing that I can say. If you have any further questions, just leave them down below. That's it. Until next time. Bye.